Hey, how y'all doing? I want to talk for a minute about a subject that's been very hip on the internets lately. That subject is the Iran election. What I have to say about this is that I'm very, very disappointed that many of you are spreading Zionist propaganda. This whole thing is an operation to get sympathies from the public for troops on the ground in Iran. It's a giant hoax. This Netta video that I've seen gaping wounds before. And I know what kind of damage a 7.62 by 39 millimeter round has because I've shot a lot of AKs and I've got, a fair amount of experience with that round, and it leaves a giant exit wound which does not exist on Netta. There is no blood around the initial wound, no blood for the exit wound, and suddenly there is blood bleeding from her face. It is what a college student might think a death scene looks like. It is not a legitimate death scene, and the consistency of the blood and the way the blood flows is not how blood in a human body works. And just to make sure, I ran this by a couple surgeon friends of mine, and they looked at the video too, and they thought it was hilarious how badly it was done. Beyond that, in Freenode Pound Iran Tech, an IRC channel, you may see the people that are wrangling proxies for the Iranians, the Iranian insurgents, this small minority of Iranian insurgents, and they openly admit to being Israelis. You can look at Twitter, where the people that own it, the venture capitalist companies, are overwhelmingly Jewish, the people that owned it. The whole thing, front to back, it's practically criminal how the media keeps quoting YouTube and Twitter as legitimate journalism. It's criminal. They had these people. I saw some dude on CNN that was recounting a protest and saying there was 3 million people, and even the CNN guy had to stop and say, 3 million? We estimated tens of thousands, and the dude was like, no, 3 million people. It's a joke. Front to back, the lies with which they justify their wars are getting remarkably low budget. It's disgusting. And I'll tell you what's going to happen. This attempt at a coup is going to fail. It's already failed. My friends in Iran have stated that the country is united behind Ahmadinejad, and frankly, the election results were totally legitimate. I mean, Reuters published a poll showing a 2-to-1 lead for Ahmadinejad, and later The Guardian confirmed it with a similar poll of theirs post-election, that, hey, they ran their results and, they did their own poll and the vote looked correct. So we know that before the election, unbiased third-party parties did their own polling, not connected to the current regime, and the vote was correct. We know that largely the buzz for this has been international, outside Iran. I mean, inside Iran, the same type of people who protest there, who do street protests there, are the same type of people who do street protests here. And I've been to some street protests in the United States. I've been in that scene, and those people are ineffectual and disappointing. I want nothing to do with them. And most Iranians want nothing to do with the kind of people that go out and cause trouble in the streets. They're just the losers. They're sad, they're disenfranchised, and they don't know what to do about it. They just want to feel like they're part of something. They're a small, vocal minority of very naive people who don't understand that they're being used as tools by an international cabal of bankers who wants Iran's oil. That's the real beef that the international community has with Iran, is they just want the right to what's under their feet and the right to sell it as they please. I mean, it's so transparent. This all started, all this anti-Iran sentiment, the minute that they stated that they were opening an oil bores. It's consistently disappointing. That's a big deal, I guess, is what frightens the international trading establishment so much, is that an oil bourse is not only the first market for oil that is not owned exclusively by Jews, the Iranian oil bourse, but pretty much the first major mercantile exchange period in the entire world for any commodity which is not owned exclusively by Jews. So it's a major disruption to their game plan. And as soon as Iran said that they were opening it, they got so furious. They wanted their 10-15% cut of all the oil in the world. And the fact that someone dared to challenge that put them in a state of rage. And pretty soon, Iran is on the axis of evil. Pretty soon, we invade Iraq and Afghanistan, which, tic-tac-toe, buddy, what's in the middle? It's so transparent. We know now that this coup is going to fail. Let me tell you what's going to happen. Then either the UK or the US is going to invade Iran. And we know they're going to because there's so many hawks behind it. Kissinger's already made a public statement that if the coup in Iran fails, then we should move in. And this is going to provide the public some ground war sympathy. It's such a joke. It's such a horrible fake joke. So just remember that Jews did Iran just like they did WTC, just like they did the USS Liberty, just like they conspired to ruin Germany's economy in the 30s, just like they conspired to ruin the American economy in the 1990s and the 2000s. And it's just, we're going to go in and we're going to do the same thing that we did in Iraq and Afghanistan, which is brutally rape and murder their populace, systematically torture people until we find the most evil, base, and barren people there, and then we set them up as a regime so that they'll sell their people out for a few goddamn coins so that a few people who own shares in a mercantile exchange can have all the oil that exists there. That's what we're going to do. So there's some prophecy for you tonight. I feel just utterly base and saddened by the state of things, and that people think that they got change when they put a black man in office. I've got a good sermon coming up. Lots of things have happened to me. I've been harassed continually by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, by certain city police departments in Orange County, by the Jewish Defense League. I've got some good stories to tell soon. And I'm going to tell them on Thursday, but I just felt that this was more important, that this needed to be said right now. I love you all. Good night.